Hey guys, Cornelia Audrey here with you today for FTD Facts, the channel where we talk about anything and everything. And today we're going to get a little bit more scientific. I'm going to speak to you about 20 of the world's deadliest diseases. And this is not going to be pretty, so hold on tight. The question I have for all of you today is, what is the worst sickness you've ever had? Tell me your dirtiest secrets. Times you've been in bed, times you've been to the hospital, near-death experiences. I want to hear it. Comment below, let me know. Anyways, we're going to start here with number 1. The first deadliest disease we're going to talk about is called cholera. Cholera is an infection of the small intestine that's transmitted by drinking water or eating food that's been infected by an infected person. This food or water could contain feces that came from an infected person. 5 million people a year are affected by this disease, and over 100,000 die every year by being infected. Okay, so the second fact that we're going to look at today and the disease is smallpox. You may have heard of smallpox before. It's a pretty popular disease that was very big in history. Smallpox was actually quite rampant at one point. Smallpox is a serious illness caused by a virus called variola. Basically, smallpox are a cluster of blisters filled with pus all over your body. Kind of like chickenpox, but filled with pus and just everywhere. You don't want to see photos of it. Don't even look. It's terrifying. Smallpox killed a lot of people, predominantly children, in the 20th century. And then luckily in the 20th century, there was a campaign for a vaccine to come out to help eradicate smallpox. And now there has been no known cases of smallpox since 1979. Smallpox killed many people. Before the vaccine came out, it's estimated that 500 million people died of this disease. The next disease we're looking at is called yellow fever. Yellow fever is a tropical disease that most often affects the liver and the kidneys. It causes fever and jaundice, and it's often fatal. Not something you want to get. Yellow fever, you can get it if you are bit by a female mosquito. Many female mosquitoes actually do carry the yellow fever disease. Here in North America, we don't see it as often. It's more prominent in Africa and in South America. Typical symptoms of yellow fever include aches and pains, fever, chills, anorexia, nausea, muscle pain, and headaches. Approximately 200,000 cases of yellow fever occur each year in the world, and 30,000 of those cases result in death. Okay, next up we have tuberculosis, otherwise known as TB. You may have heard of it before. It is a lung condition caused by bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It's an airborne disease that is often successfully treated. Although in 2012, approximately 900 people lost their lives due to tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is one of the top causes of death for people with HIV because it attacks the immune system, and people with HIV already have a less strong immune system, and tuberculosis just like hits them and people die. Okay, so the next disease we're going to talk about is influenza. You may have heard of it before. Symptoms are fever, chills, aches and pains, puking, diarrhea. All around, they just don't make your body feel good. The flu bacteria is often transmitted through the air. You know, if someone sneezes, you could catch it by touching surfaces. If you don't wash your hands enough, you don't cover your mouth when you cough. Luckily, the flu can often be solved quite easily with drinking lots of water, keep rested, wash your hands, fill up on vitamin C as well. That helps. Many people that do die from the flu are often babies or older people. So the majority of us don't have anything to worry about, but you never know what can happen when you get a virus like that. Okay, fact number 6 is lung cancer. We've all heard of cancer. It's probably affected somebody you know, but studies show that actually lung cancer is one of the most common ways that people can die. Through women and men, lung cancer is accountable for 1.38 million deaths worldwide every year. Okay, the next disease we're going to look at is whooping cough. Whooping cough is usually occurring most in babies. You've probably heard of it. It's called the cough of 100 days. Basically, if your baby's coughing for months and months and they have a terrible whoop afterwards, that is whooping cough, and it occurs quite often. Okay, so the next disease is called the Ebola virus. You've probably heard of it recently in the news. It's something that we've all been terrified of. You know, if you travel, you see it in the airports, people check your temperature. You walk into a hospital, they ask you if you've been to some infected countries recently. Ebola virus is very serious. It is spread through the contact of infected body fluids. Victims of this disease usually suffer from muscle aches, weakness in the body, a lot of very typical flu symptoms actually. And in time, other symptoms will include bleeding internally and externally. Unfortunately, there is no known treatment of Ebola so far, so if you get it, the chances of you surviving are not very high. Okay, the next fact is the avian influenza, otherwise known as the bird flu. Yes, we can contract the bird flu as humans. The way most humans can contract this disease are by handling the dead birds who had the flu or touching fluids of the birds that have this flu. For this reason, many large outbreaks occur in agriculturally dense areas like sub-Saharan Africa with big agricultural practices and many parts of Asia. That's where we see the two biggest outbreaks of this flu, because people are handling birds all the time, the birds get the disease and they spread it to humans. Okay, the next deadly disease is tetanus. You may or may not have heard of this one before. Tetanus is a medical condition and it's a bacterial disease. It is characterized by a prolonged contraction of muscle fibers. Basically, it's marked by the rigidity and spasms of muscles. It is contracted through wound contamination. This can include a wound, deep cut, and bacteria is getting in all those areas. You don't want that to happen, so clean up your wounds. Coronary artery disease. Experts suggest that artery diseases are the deadliest strain of diseases in the world. The World Health Organization estimates that 7.4 million people die of heart disease every year. Unfortunately, the majority of those deaths occur in poor to low to middle income families. People who smoke, people who eat bad, those are often the cases where you find people get sick from heart diseases. Fact number 12, meningitis. It is an inflammation of the protective membranes of the brain and the spinal cord. The inflammation may be caused by infection and possible drugs. If you develop meningitis, you may suffer from intense headaches, and in severe cases, convulsions, delirium, and death. SARS. Yes, SARS. Some of you who are from Toronto may remember the SARS outbreak back in the early 2000s. SARS is basically a worse version of pneumonia. If you contract it, it's a really bad respiratory disease and it could result in death. Luckily, there have been no reported cases of SARS since 2003, but scientists do believe that SARS still lives in animals and out in the wild, so there's no saying that it might not come back. Okay, so the next disease we are looking at is a sexually transmitted disease. Yeah, nobody wants those, so be careful in the bedroom. Make sure you always use a condom. No glove, no love. Am I right? Syphilis is known to affect about 12 million people annually, and 90% of those people are living in the developing world. Symptoms of syphilis include rashes and can actually lead to heart problems. Lower respiratory infections. The World Health Organization estimates that lower respiratory infections actually account for 3.1 million or 5.5% of deaths every year. This group of diseases includes pneumonia, bronchitis, and influenza. These cases are very common. Like the flu, lower respiratory infections do occur very commonly during flu season, which in the northern hemisphere is December through February, and in the southern hemisphere it is June through August. And in tropical regions, these diseases happen all year round. The flu season is all the time. Stroke, I mean, again, a very common disease. A stroke is when an artery in the brain is blocked or is leaking. Oxygen-deprived brain cells begin to die within minutes. It all happens very fast, and if you don't get to the hospital on time, it can lead to more and more damage. Strokes occur to approximately 15 million people worldwide. Nearly 6 million of these people die from strokes. Okay, another big fact coming at you. HIV and AIDS. We've all heard of this. It's rampant around the world and causes a lot of uproar. HIV is short for human immune deficiency virus. It's a virus that attacks your immune system. HIV can actually lead to AIDS. AIDS stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. AIDS is a chronic and life-threatening illness. According to the Foundation for AIDS Research, since the start of the pandemic, almost 39 million people have died from the virus. Studies have shown that 5,700 outbreaks of HIV/AIDS occur every day. Okay, diarrheal diseases. Diarrhea is when you pass 3 or more loose stools a day. When diarrhea occurs too often, you lose a lot of water, a lot of salt, and you end up becoming dehydrated. Death actually may occur if you experience diarrhea for too long of a time. Many people in poorer countries who don't have access to healthcare because they become dehydrated and they have no food or water to help them heal. Diarrhea can be caused by intestinal infections. It can be caused by bacteria getting into your intestines, upsetting your stomach. There's a lot of ways you can actually contract diarrhea. diarrhea, traveler's diarrhea, you eat something with parasites in it, drink water that's contaminated, those are all ways you could get diarrhea, and if you don't have the proper ways to heal your body, it can result in death. Unfortunately, diarrhea often occurs in areas that do not have good sanitization practices. Number 19 of the deadliest diseases. Diabetes is actually on the list. You may or may not be surprised. It is a disease that's very rampant in North America. Diabetes is a group of diseases that affects insulin production. There are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. With type 1 diabetes, the pancreas can actually not produce any insulin. With type 2 diabetes, the pancreas does not actually produce enough insulin, or it's not used properly by the body. Type 2 diabetes can actually be caused by a number of factors. The way you eat, your diet, your exercise, how much weight you carry, all factors that could lead to type 2 diabetes. Number 20 is malaria, a disease caused by mosquitoes. Ow. You don't want to get malaria. It's not fun. Malaria is caused by a parasite in mosquitoes. People can contract malaria by being bitten by an infected mosquito. You know, when you're out in the woods or you're traveling and your mosquitoes are everywhere, you gotta be careful because those mosquitoes could have malaria. And if you get that, you're gonna be in a lot of pain. According to the World Health Organization, in 2012, 637,000 deaths were caused by malaria. Many of these deaths are in sub-Saharan Africa. Malaria is actually preventable, but unfortunately a lot of the preventative measures aren't accessible to people all over the world. So many people are dying of this disease. That is all the time we have for this episode. I have given you 20 of the deadliest world diseases. I hope you're not too sad and didn't cringe too much. I know I cringed a lot doing this research, but come back for the next episode. Really excited to talk more. Comment below, let me know what your thoughts are on diseases. What diseases are you most afraid of? What diseases have you contracted before? I want to hear about it. Thanks so much. My name is Cornelia Audrey.